Welcome to the verse-by-verse study of the book of Proverbs. We begin chapter 14 today. The wise woman builds her house, but with her own hands the foolish one tears hers down. Again, Proverbs is about choosing between godly wisdom and rejecting godly wisdom. Do we follow God's guidance through the Spirit, or do we choose to follow our own wisdom through our flesh? Here the author is personifying wisdom as a godly woman. The wise woman or man chooses to build their house, meaning their life, on godly principles. Or you choose to build your life, your family, your career, your reputation on the flesh, on your own, which is often ruled by hard-heartedness, selfishness, and pride. So the warning we have here is the house built on wisdom will stand. The house built on flesh will not. Whoever fears the Lord walks uprightly, but those who despise him are devious in their ways. The fear of the Lord. That is the primary theme throughout all of Proverbs. This word fear, of course, does not mean emotionally being frightened, but rather to have a deep respect, an appreciation, and belief in God. And this respect influences our behavior. We see God as a loving, wise parent and know from experience that their guidance always proves to be the far best course of action. We know when we follow and honor that guidance, we're on the right path. We can walk upright with confidence. A fool's mouth lashes out with pride, but the lips of the wise protect them. Again, our mouth reflects our heart. Is our mouth guided by the heart of God, or is our mouth guided by the heart of flesh? That type of heart manifests itself in our attitude and our words, and that heart sometimes lashes out in pride in an attempt to make others look smaller so we can feel bigger, as opposed to a heart of God that is protected from harming others. It is a heart that wants to encourage, wants to build up, not tear down. Where there is no oxen, the manger, the barn, is empty, and therefore does not need to be cleaned, is the implication. But from the strength of the ox comes abundant harvest. The point here is that a lazy person, someone that's short-sighted fool, will get rid of his ox to avoid having to clean up the poop inside his barn. But it is that ox that gives him the strength, the capacity to have an abundant harvest. So rather than following God's wisdom of diligence, we make foolish short-term decisions to avoid unpleasant or grunt work that will result in long-term negative consequences. An honest witness does not deceive, but a false witness pours out lies. Again, a heart guided by God will speak the truth without deception, as opposed to the heart guided by pride will attempt to manipulate the truth in order to make themselves look good. The mocker or scoffer seeks wisdom and finds none, but knowledge comes easily to the discerning. The scoffer are those that reject God's wisdom with scorn. They view God's wisdom with disdain, as outdated for the unsophisticated. They spend a lifetime seeking all sorts of, quote, higher knowledge and only find disappointment, as opposed to those that truly seek and discern God's wisdom and follow God. They will be blessed with a deeper knowledge of God's wisdom. Stay away from a fool, for you will not find knowledge on their lips. Here we have a repeat from chapters 10 and also chapters 13, as well as 1 Corinthians. It's a fact. The people we choose to trust and to place our confidence and confide in, they will rub off on us. So the warning here is if we choose to get our advice from fools, we will become more foolish. The wisdom of the prudent is to give thought to their ways, but the folly of fools is deception. One of the many blessings of God's wisdom is the capacity of self-reflection. Too often we do not stop before we make a decision and truly ask ourselves, are we deceiving ourselves? Are we attempting to rationalize a foolish decision, one based on emotion of pride, of anger, or envy? Is it our fleshly heart that just can rationalize just about any kind of behavior? So wisdom here is saying, first seek God to give thought to our ways, to better understand our true motivations, to first seek God's clarity and discernment. Without God's discernment, Jeremiah tells us, the human heart is the most deceitful of all things. But I, the Lord, search all hearts and examine secret motives. God promises if we stop and ask God to examine our heart, He will reveal our true motivation as well as put us on the right path. Fools mock, scoff at making amends for sin, being held accountable. But goodwill is found among the upright. The scoffer is the first to make excuses, to ignore, to try to laugh off, blame others, blame circumstances for their bad behavior or bad decisions. There's no moral sense of accountability, even remorse. Therefore, they do not garner, they do not find goodwill from others. As opposed to those that are guided by God, they are upright. They step up and take ownership of their mistakes and do their best to make amends. This person is respected. They develop goodwill from others. Each heart knows its own bitterness, and no one else can share its joy. Here the author is making a general observation rather than a moral truth. He is reminding us to be careful. Only God truly knows the other person's heart. Each heart is unique because everyone's past experiences and surrounding circumstances are unique to them. Where they are in their walk is unique. Therefore, we should never or not say, I know how you feel. Only God truly knows how someone feels. God knows every tear and every scar. So we're called to offer love, support, and encouragement. And when led by God, to share our journey, our tears and scars, both of bitterness and of joy, and how God has blessed us through that walk. Next, another repeated theme. The house of the wicked will be destroyed, but the tent of the upright will flourish. Here you see the house of the wicked implies a substantial house, as opposed to the humble tent of the upright. Despite outward appearances of this substantial house and life, the author is reminding us it is our behavior, the choices we make of the occupants of that house, that truly determine if that dwelling and that life will stand or fall. There is a way that appears to be right, but in the end, it leads to death. Again, rather than relying on God's wisdom, fools rely on superficial appearances and their emotional pride to choose the right way. But decisions based on pride always lead to a life of headache and heartache. Even in laughter, the heart may ache, and rejoicing may end in grief. Again, the author is saying, we do not know the other person's heart. There may be laughter on the outside and tears on the inside. We also do not know the future. A day may begin with rejoicing and end in grief. The author's point is we need to lean on and rely on God for our daily wisdom. The faithless will be fully repaid for their ways, and the good rewarded for theirs. there is an important difference between repayment and reward. Repayment means a debt has accrued, has been created. For those that reject God, there will be an accounting and therefore an just repayment for all the harm that that person has caused. And those that follow God, there is no debt, no repayment, because that debt was fully paid. Our sins of the past, the present, and the future were fully paid at the cross. For the Christian, there will only be rewards for our good deeds, which are stored up in heaven. Well, we shall stop there and finish up chapter 14 next week. Until then, may God bless you, bless your family with both grace and peace. Aloha.